Welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my outdoor adventure. My name is Tong Vu, and thank you for watching. Today, I'll be out again at Lake Camanche South Shore Pond. One of my favorite pastime to go trout fishing. Now, of course, today is 93 degrees. That's its forecast. I have a feeling that the fish is going to be on the deep side of the pond. When comes summer and the heat comes and the temperature goes up, most likely the fish will be hanging out on the deep side. With the fish being hanging out on the deep side, it's hard to guess where the fish are actually at. I mean the trout. So today I'm going to be bringing in my favorite white fishing rod. There's nothing really special about this white fishing rod. It's just my lucky fishing rod. You'll notice that this white fishing rod is rigged a little bit differently from the rest of the rod. Of course, this is the same North Carolina rig, with the only exception. Instead of a quarter-ounce metal weight, I'll be putting on a clear white bulb. And on this clear white bulb, I'm going to be adding in, filling up with full of water. Now, the philosophy and the idea behind it is that it will hopefully will slowly sink into the depth of the water. Now, the thing is that we don't know, or I don't know, where the fish are really at. It's just that at this point, it's a guessing game. Of course, this is Saturday, so the pond is getting pretty packed. To my right, of course, is the shallow side. You don't want to see that side. There's rows and rows of cars and rows of anglers fishing there. This side is also packed too. These families, I'm assuming, they've been staking out this area since 6 o'clock this morning. Time now is about like around 10 o'clock. And of course, there are also anglers very close to my favorite fishing spot, the deep side of the pond. Wonder how today's gonna be like. Every time I come out to Camanche, the only thing I hope for is that I won't skunk out. Taking one or two trout home, is better than taking none at all. Yeah, this is my little DIY rig. Still need a little bit more work, but I'm sure that I'll figure it out. It keeps on falling each time I go over the speed bump. Maybe the hook is too short. Very narrow passage that I really had to squeeze on by. Disadvantage of having a cart. The advantage of having a cart is I can carry everything on it. Lucky these folks didn't know my favorite spot. They're on the shallow side. But this is exactly where I want to be. The deep side of the pond. On top of this is a little cliff. There's about maybe a 12-foot drop into the bottom of the floor of the pond. And then it flattened out a little bit to a couple of feet before it drops down to a 20 to 35 feet drop. How do I know this? Because I was kayaking here once, and I actually mapped the floor of this pond. As you know, I'll admit that I've been here at this pond so many times that I actually know starting to know the behavior of these trouts. Like I've said before, I've skunked out so many times. I don't know how many times I have to tell you. It's embarrassing. Sometimes, come out here, trout, fish all day and catching none. This is the same feeling with everybody that comes out here. Sometimes it feels like, hey, there's no trout in the pond, and that the plant is just all a ruse to get you out. But once you figure it out, the secrets, you know there's trouts in the pond. This is a summer secret. What I told you last time is the winter and spring secret, where the weather is cooler and where you can find the trout easier closer to shore. The trout today, my guts tells me that it's going to be in the deep side of part of the pond, which is about almost close to the middle of the pond. And this is why it is important that I have the clear bulb system in place. Now, the clear bulb system has one backdrop. It doesn't hold the water in all the time, and it always leaks. So I always have to keep an eye out to make sure that the bulb is full of water. Because if I see that there's only a small bubble or sort of inside the bulb, then the bulb is not going to sink, and the bait's just going to stay on the surface. The bulb, you'll find sometimes I'll find that it will actually go down, sink down a little bit, just not even a few feet, probably a couple inches off the surface. But then it's not doing what it's supposed to do. When it does that, your bait's just going to be floating on top of the surface. You don't even notice unless you're really looking and seeing that the bait will be floating on top of the water. No trout's not going to eat that, since the trout's going to be in the deep side. So it's very important to make sure that that bulb is really full of water. Now, the other thing that I want to tell you is that if you use a bulb, the bulb is going to be too heavy for the auto device hook. I've tried it last time with the bulb, and when the fish pulls on it, it seems like there was not enough force or enough to trigger the auto hook to hook. You'll see the line moving and it's pulling, but my assumption is that the bulb is way too heavy, and therefore not enough force on the line to be able to force the trigger to hook, to trigger the auto hook. I always carry a ice chest, and this is summertime is also important to make sure that the trout that you catch, are placed in ice. In the past, I usually just do what every other angler do, basically just put them on a stringer. And I find that when at the end of the day, when I actually came home from fishing, I noticed that the meat are no longer fresh. It's actually falling right off the trout. It was like as though the trout was already cooked, but the flesh is still raw. That makes the trout unedible. So I learned a trick. Before I used to bleed them and then put in the ice chest, but then I discovered a while back that there are small little wormy parasites inside the pond. That didn't give me a very confident that the fish would be fresh. So as soon as I catch them, I'll throw it right into the ice chest, keep them on ice, and then when I take it home, I'll take care of the blood and everything else. Now, if you ever use this system, guarantee that you'll wow all the anglers. I know I have every time I go out, and I'm not just boasting about the power eggs, but it seems like every time I go out and using this same old system, as long as I figure out exactly where the trouts are swimming at, and as soon as I pinpoint the water columns, it's hitting left and right. Oh. You see that right there? As soon as I put it in there, it was already hitting. This is why the video is so short. It took me an hour drive to get to Lake Camanche, and it kind of sucks because to take the fun out of it, it took me 15 minutes to limit out. You can tell this is a big fish. My favorite white rod is not an ultralight, if you notice. It's actually a medium light rod. Somehow, whenever I go out fishing with this white rod for trouts, I'm always catching trout. This is my second catch. I start seeing the line move. But then the anglers are sometimes are fishing really, really close to me. So my neighbors, sometimes it could be false alarm because they could be pulling and tugging on my line. And this is exactly what I was thinking at the time.
Did you get my line?
He thought he hit my line. I thought he hit my line. But in the end, it seems
I
like
don't think you did.
there's a trout on the other end of that
Look like
line.
it's got fish.
The thing with the disadvantage of the bulb is that you're not gonna notice that the fish is biting. The only way you know that is that the line is moving. It's like it has mind of its own. It won't tug sometimes. The fish just casually swimming by, not even realizing that they've been hooked on the line. And that's where you have to visualize and watch the line. This was another big catch, by the way. One of the things that I like about Lake Camanche, especially at the pond, is that the trout here are really, really decent size. They're really, really big. I mean, they're so big and big enough for me not even to finish one trout by myself. I have to eat it in 2 or 3 meals. Now, once you start catching trouts, less than 5 minutes apart of each other, every angler is starting to look at your spot. Like I always say, they always think that the spot is hot. That's where the trouts are at. Now, I've always been telling you guys that it's not about the spot. Sometimes it's really about the rig and how you hook the bait onto the hook itself.
There you go.
Hey, this is my third one. You can see that the line is moving. Now, the one thing about using the bulb system is that you can't tighten the line. Because if you do tighten the line, you won't even realize that you're actually reeling in the bulb closer to shore. Because these bulbs don't touch the bottom of the water. They basically float slowly down. Who knows how long it'll take them to hit the bottom. But if you want it to hit the bottom, you just basically reel it in, and before you realize it, they're just becoming just a few feet away from the shore. And that's the reason why a lot of times some folks can't catch the trout. So what I do is I throw it far away and I just let the line loose. And I assume that this is my hypothesis, is that I hypothesize that the floater, the bulb will slowly float down, and as it slowly floats down, I'll bring the bait down too as well, but slowly drift the bait downward. Because of the way how I hook the power aids on, as it drifts downward, it will start swirling in a circle that mimics what looks to be a worm. Delicious, garlicky worm, that is. And that's why the fish are biting so much on this bait. But I hope that you guys can explain to me down below. It's always lemon lime color. Now I've tried red color, orange color. I've even tried white, and none of these power eggs seems to work. But lemon lime at Lake Camanche seems to be working. Now my fourth catch so happens to be on my auto hooker set. I noticed that. One of the lucky fish cruising right by shore. There's no way that this fish is going to get away, because this line has a braided line with a 4-pound test. That's the lead line. So I'm not worried about this pull at all. Oh, this is actually my secondary luckiest pull too as well.
Tell me yeah.
Funny how every anglers have a favorite pull. You're starting to also begin to realize that all my fishing poles are very cheap. These poles are about $49. I don't usually like to use expensive poles. One of the things that when you go out and fishing by yourself, sometimes you're just so focused on re-rigging the line that you fail to pay attention, and this is one of the cases. I totally forgot to put the bell onto the line after I set the line to the water. The white fishing pole right there, I didn't realize it was hitting, and that's the thing with the pole. You don't see the pole start to shake or it looked like it was biting. Sometimes it seems like the wind is just blowing the line, but it's actually there's another fish on the other end. Now, if my neighbor was not so jealous or not so angry about me catching out the fish, sometimes when they see that the line is moving, they'll be screaming at me, telling me that there's a fish on. But sadly, the neighbor next door, they saw the line move and they didn't say anything. They kept their mouth shut. See, and when I realized that the line was pulling, when I got, tried to reel it in, it was too late. Without setting the hook, the trout are smart enough to wiggle their way out and spit back out the bait without getting hooked. Don't know how they do it, but trout is smart enough to do that. She totally ruined the hook already. Almost take the whole entire bait. Unfortunately, this is my last fish, my last catch of the day. Within 15 minutes, I've caught my limit. I could hear the anglers from across the pond
There you go.
screaming, "How in hell is he catching all those trout?" Well, if you learn my secret, then you'll be catching trouts too. And this is not being boasting. So for summer, look towards the deep side. That's where the trouts can be at. Jigging is not the answer during summer. Now, of course, you have to pay attention to see if the trout's actually cruising next to shore. Anyway, thank you for watching my channel. Please like and subscribe so that I can bring more content like this to you for your enjoyment. I don't know if this technique will work, at other places, in other lakes, and other ponds. But I definitely know it will work at Lake Camanche. Have fun and enjoy.